Subscribe to begin today's story with life stories. A young woman, drowning in grief after the sudden death of her father, is forced to make an impossible choice: marry a mysterious billionaire to save her family from financial ruin. What begins as a cold contract slowly unravels into a powerful journey of hidden truths, buried pain, and unexpected love. In a house full of secrets, she must find the courage to uncover the past and rewrite her future. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's emotional journey of sacrifice, redemption, and the love that changes everything. The rain was relentless that afternoon, hammering against the tall windows of Willow Heights Academy with a fury that matched the chaos I felt inside. I remember clutching my sheet music to my chest, soaked through, running down the corridor like it would make a difference. I was late for my last class of the day, but in that moment, it felt like just another inconvenience in a long list of small failures. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something inside me, a whisper, a nudge, told me to pick up. "Miss Caldwell, this is Portland Mercy Hospital. I'm so sorry. Your father has suffered a massive heart attack." I don't remember much after that. The next 20 minutes were a blur, a whirlwind of cab rides and prayers I couldn't even form. When I arrived at the hospital, a doctor with tired eyes met me in the hallway and told me, gently, that my father hadn't made it. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived. 3 days later, I stood at Evergreen Memorial Cemetery, numb, watching as they lowered his casket into the cold earth. My mother, Diane, held tightly to my arm, her body fragile and trembling. Multiple sclerosis had already begun to steal her strength, and now grief was taking the rest. On her other side, my younger brother Jake stared blankly ahead, only 19 and looking suddenly so much younger. We weren't even listening to the minister's words when I saw him, a tall man in a sharp black suit, watching from the edge of the cemetery. His posture was too perfect, his presence too deliberate to be just another mourner. "Who's that?" Jake whispered. I didn't answer. The man turned before I could get a proper look at his face and disappeared into the back of a sleek black car. I should have known then that life as I knew it was over. A week after the funeral, while we were still drowning in grief and bills, two men in tailored suits knocked on our front door. They were from Cross Enterprises, a name I'd heard vaguely in the background of business news, the kind you ignore unless you're in that world. They laid out folders with corporate logos and cold facts across our modest kitchen table. "Your father owed Mr. Cross $7 million, the older man said flatly, "and now that debt is due in full." My mother gasped, her hands trembling worse than usual. "That's not possible. Richard wouldn't. He didn't." "Your husband falsified financial records, Mrs. Caldwell," the second lawyer interrupted more bluntly. "The evidence is extensive, irrefutable." I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. Jake's tuition, my mother's treatments. How could we survive this? Then came the offer. Mr. Cross anticipated this reaction. He's prepared to offer an alternative arrangement. They handed me another folder, thicker, heavier. My heart sank as I read the first page. "Marriage?" I whispered. "1 year minimum," the first lawyer confirmed. "No divorce allowed during that period. After that, the debt will be forgiven and you're free to walk away. Additionally, Mr. Cross will cover your mother's medical expenses and your brother's education." I laughed. I think I did, though there was no humor in it. Why would he want this? "That is not our concern, Miss Caldwell. You have 24 hours to decide." After they left, my mother broke down. "You can't. Emma will find another way." But we both knew there was no other way. The house was already mortgaged to its limit. We were drowning. "I'll be fine, Mom," I said, swallowing my fear. "It's just 1 year." The next morning, I made the call. By afternoon, the paperwork was signed. That evening, I stood alone by my father's grave, asking a man who'd taken his secrets with him to the grave one last question. "Why, Dad? What did you do?" The sound of tires crunching gravel interrupted me. A black limousine pulled up beside the cemetery road, the tinted window lowered just enough for me to meet a pair of calculating gray-green eyes. Nathaniel Cross, the man who now owned my future. I pressed a hand to the marble headstone. "I'll find out the truth," I whispered. Then I turned and walked toward the car, toward the man I had agreed to marry, and toward a life I no longer recognized. The door opened. I stepped in, and for the first time I faced the man who had traded millions for a wife. He looked younger than I expected. Late 30s, maybe. Sharp suit, sharper jawline, and those eyes, cold and unreadable. "Miss Caldwell," he said, voice calm, deep, and controlled. "I trust the arrangements are to your satisfaction." It wasn't a question. He didn't speak again as the car pulled away from the cemetery, and I stared out the window, watching my old life vanish behind me. And that was how it began. Not with love, not even with a spark. Just a contract, a signature, and a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. Lake Tahoe was nothing like I'd imagined. The estate Nathaniel brought me to wasn't just a house. It was a fortress of glass and stone perched on a cliffside, overlooking the wide, sapphire lake. It was beautiful, yes, in a haunting kind of way. Isolated, quiet, cold, just like him. Nathaniel gave me a brief tour, but he barely spoke. He assigned me the east wing, while his office and quarters were on the west. "We'll share common spaces only when necessary," he'd said flatly, "for appearances." The housekeeper, Mrs. Reynolds, showed me to a suite larger than my family's entire home. Everything inside was immaculate, sterile, and decorated in soft blues and grays. On the bed lay a silk nightgown, ivory, delicate, tags still attached, a subtle reminder of what this contract might entail. That first night, I sat on the edge of the bed, heart racing as the clock neared midnight. A knock on the door. I froze. Then it opened, and there he was. Tie gone, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. His usual precision softened in the dim light. "May I come in?" he asked. I nodded, barely able to find my voice. He stepped inside, but didn't come closer. "You're afraid," he observed. "Wouldn't you be?" I countered. "I don't know you. I don't know what you expect." He took a breath. "I expect what's outlined in the contract." I glanced at the bed. "That includes this." A long pause stretched between us. Then slowly he approached, measured, controlled. I braced myself, eyes shut, heart pounding, but all he did was touch my cheek. A featherlight brush of his fingers. His eyes met mine, something flickering behind them. Vulnerability? Confusion? Then just as suddenly, he pulled back. "This was a mistake," he said. "What was?" "This," he gestured between us. "The physical part. It's unnecessary." He turned to go. I didn't stop him, didn't know how. Just as his hand reached the doorknob, I said, "Nathaniel, why did you really want this marriage? It wasn't just about my father's debt, was it?" He didn't turn, just paused. "Get some rest, Emma. Tomorrow will be an adjustment for both of us." He left me more confused than ever. Days turned into weeks, and we barely saw each other. He kept to his side of the house. I kept to mine. But I felt eyes on me sometimes, quiet footsteps just out of view, whispers that stopped when I entered a room. Then I found the music room, tucked behind double doors in the east wing, dusty but intact. A magnificent Steinway grand piano stood in front of a wall of windows, the lake shimmering behind it. I couldn't resist. I began playing again. At first, just scales, then soft melodies. Eventually, Chopin, Debussy. Hours passed like minutes. Music became my refuge. One morning, mid-phrase, I heard a quiet voice from the doorway. "You play beautifully." I turned. Nathaniel stood there, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "This was my mother's piano," he said softly. "She taught at Juilliard before she got married." "Like me," I said before I could stop myself. "Well, not Juilliard, but I taught music." He gave a small nod, then turned to go. "You're welcome to use the room anytime. The piano shouldn't sit silent." That evening, a rare Chopin manuscript appeared on my bed. No note, just a gesture. For the first time since I arrived, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Seen. Life in the Cross estate fell into a strange rhythm after that. Nathaniel and I existed like shadows, glimpsing one another in doorways, exchanging words only when necessary. Yet his presence was constant, like a silent thread weaving through the mansion's quiet halls. I could feel him listening outside the music room when I played. Once I saw him down by the dock in the early morning, staring out at the lake like he was waiting for a ghost. It was on one of those sleepless nights that I found the hidden study. Unlike the rest of the house, the study felt lived in. a worn leather chair, a half-finished chess game, a photo frame tucked behind a stack of books. I picked it up and my breath caught. Nathaniel, younger, smiling, his arm around a girl with the same gray-green eyes. Lily. The door creaked. I turned to see Nathaniel standing in the doorway. He didn't look angry, just distant. That was the last summer we were all here, he said, before she died. I'm sorry, I murmured. She looked happy. She was. He stepped into the room, quieter than I'd ever seen him. This was Lily's space. She loved books, music. She wanted to be a composer. I hesitated, then asked what had been on my mind for weeks. Is that why I'm here? Because of her? Because of what happened? His expression shifted, walls slamming back into place. Your father took something irreplaceable from me. This arrangement ensures I get something in return. But what exactly are you getting? I pressed. You keep me here, isolated, in the middle of a story I don't understand. You're fulfilling a contract, nothing more. But his eyes said otherwise. That night, I returned to Lily's study and found something I'd missed before. Sheet music marked with strange symbols. Not musical directions. Coordinates, numbers, words like Uncle C and box. Clues hidden in music just like a composer would leave. I followed them. In a forgotten boathouse near the lake, I found a locked container hidden beneath rotting floorboards. Inside was a letter, Lily's handwriting, a confession, a warning, and a USB drive. The video on it shattered everything I thought I knew. Charles Cross, Nathaniel's uncle, stood across from my father in a corporate office, voice cold and clear. You'll confess to everything, Charles said, or your daughter's med school acceptance disappears. Your wife's insurance, your son's scholarship, everything. And my father, his voice low and broken, replied, She's just a girl, Charles. She doesn't deserve this. I warned you not to look too closely at the accounts. Now you pay the price. My hands shook as I watched. My father hadn't been a thief. He'd been a pawn. He'd sacrificed his name, his dignity, to protect us. I ran, straight to Nathaniel's office, the drive clutched to my chest. He wasn't there, but Victoria was. I wouldn't go in there if I were you, she said smoothly. It's not wise to get too curious. You never know what you might find. I met her cold smile with fire in my chest. I already did. 3 months later, I stood at the edge of Lake Tahoe, the golden light of sunset reflecting off the still water. Behind me, the Cross estate glowed with warmth, laughter, and something that had once been missing, life. The truth had come out. Charles Cross was arrested, my father's name was cleared, and Nathaniel, he finally began to forgive. Not just the man who betrayed him, but himself. The foundation we started in Lily's memory now funded pediatric heart research. A small music school had opened on the estate, offering free lessons to local children. I taught them every afternoon in the same music room that once echoed only with silence. Nathaniel was different now. Softer. Still serious. Still Nathaniel, but lighter somehow. He'd walk me to the dock in the evenings, hold my hand without hesitation, and listen when I played with a look that said he finally understood what healing sounded like. That evening, as the sun dipped low, he joined me by the water. In his hand was a small box. This isn't about contracts, he said quietly. This is about choice. Inside was a ring, simple, beautiful, thoughtful, just like the man he'd become. I fell in love with my wife, he said, not the one I signed a contract with, but the one who fought for the truth, for justice, for me. Will you stay? Not because you have to, but because you want to? I smiled through tears and took his hand. I choose you, Nathaniel. I always will. And there, beneath the endless sky and the quiet whisper of waves, our story truly began. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories for more heartfelt dramas, emotional journeys, and powerful love stories. New videos every week.